Ladies and gentlemen, I am Paul, U.S. Army combat veteran, and today we're going to be taking a look at Ukrainian forces destroying 11 Russian military vehicles, armored vehicles, tanks, troop transports, you name it. And we are going to show how drones are changing warfare as we know it. And this is a perfect illustration of how. Let's get into it. And because it comes to us from the Sun, who recycles content from everyone, I get to use the big screen because I really don't think anyone has this copyrighted, right? It's Ukrainian Ministry of Defense footage. Okay, so this looks like so right now, the drone is functioning as a spotter, a forward observer, or FO. And what an FO does is, well, they observe areas that are forward of the line of battle or the limit of advance. So right now, this would be what, for example, an FO, conventionally, a human being with binoculars, would look out and see. They'd say, oh, wow, look, there's Russian tanks here. But if you were an FO, you would be really worried because you're probably in range of these tanks, depending on exactly how good the zoom is. It says, I think it's a 16 times zoom. So there's still probably a decent distance from these tanks, but it's still close enough that a human being would be a little worried about their safety. Drone, obviously not the case. Drone is much smaller than a human being, and of course, much more maneuverable. It would be almost impossible for these tanks to hit this drone, but it would be pretty easy if the tanks could see a forward observer, especially because they generally don't travel alone, right? They're going to be part of a squad or a fire team at least. There's a chance they could get spotted and engaged. Not so with this drone. So right now this drone is scouting the area and it is assessing. They are looking at what are the exact targets. Looks like a vehicle and some light infantry, and they're going to be reporting it back to their headquarters, the Fire Direction Center, the FDC. So he will report the exact vehicles, and there's a drone observer, right? There's a human being behind this drone doing it, but safely behind this drone. So he's going to report that looks like 4 vehicles and infantry in the open. Looks like they have realized that there's a drone preparing to call artillery fire, right? And they've relayed this data about the target location and the target disposition back to their artillery. And you can see here, right, the artillery fire direction center has processed it into a fire mission and sent it to the batteries. The batteries have started engaging the targets. Now you notice here, right, we always say that, you know, there's reality gets a vote is the saying that we used to use in the military, at least that I used to use. And reality in artillery missions, they're precision fires, right? They're influenced by all sorts of factors that you can't really calculate for. Things like the humidity, the tiny differences in the manufacture of one artillery round versus another, that are all gonna mean that when the round actually flies through the air, it may not hit the exact target you programmed it to. So what will happen is the FO, or in this case the drone observer, is going to say, you're going to call back to the FDC, they're going to say, hey, listen, your rounds, they were a little to the west. Or let's see, this doesn't have a compass on it, but the drone observer is going to have a compass. They're going to go, hey, we noticed these rounds were a little bit west of the road, west of your target. So you're going to want to bring your rounds 50 meters to the east, or I'd say this is probably like 200 meters east. And so the artillery, the fire control center is going to turn that into a mission. It's going to send those adjustments to the battery. The battery is going to change their point of aim ever so slightly, and they're going to launch another fire mission. Let's see. Yep, so you see the batteries, those 2 batteries fired those rounds. Let's see, looks like they're firing more rounds. It's not clear to me that this is the same AO, but it looks like it could be. This may be a function of the drones trying to triangulate all the Russian military vehicles in the area. Okay, wait, we had a brief shot. Now, a quick word to the YouTube censors. Guys, I know what's gonna happen. You're going to tell me this video isn't monetizable, but I've looked it over. It is. Your software misidentifies it, I understand, but this doesn't actually show any violence against people. It shows the rounds going out, it shows the aftermath, but it doesn't actually show violence. So it complies with the terms of service. Thanks. So here is the aftermath, right? So you can see, and we're going to see some, let's see if we'll take it back a little bit. There's a vehicle, looks like someone is fleeing the area. This is actually a good response. If you can move faster than the forward observer can change the fire missions, change the directions, then you're almost certainly going to be able to outrun the artillery. And that's what they're trying to do here. They're just trying to change their location fast enough that the artillery can't reposition it, right? And it's not a bad strategy, but you can see it only really works with tiny numbers of people. This looks like literally a few infantry have piled into what looks like a van or a civilian car and are making an absolute bananas run for it. Obviously, a tiny squad of people isolated from their main body are in a whole different sort of danger, but it is a way to avoid this artillery. Now, here we go. We're right back at the initial point we were looking at before, and this is sort of the aftermath. So what's probably happened is they may pan out and let us see it, that there was rounds that landed to the, again, probably west, but could be anything. They would have made the adjustments. The rounds would have probably been a little inaccurate, but less so. And the drone, or conventionally a forward observer, would have said, hey, you're just about there, make one more adjustment, and fire for effect. Fire for effect tells the batteries that you're spot on, don't need to worry about aiming, you just put rounds, as many rounds as you can, right onto the target. And that's what you're seeing here. You're seeing the results of that devastating fire for effect barrage. And it is hit this tank, it appears to be cooking off, this tank appears to be crippled. We know that, of course, Russian troops don't really have a problem with abandoning their equipment to save their own skin. So it's possible that some of these are intact tanks with the crew having long since run off. As we've seen the crew seem to bail. Yep, it's cooking off the rounds. The rounds are gonna explode. Again, I think there's a medium chance that these crews have ditched as soon as the artillery happened. They realized that the tanks are the target. They need to get as far away from the tanks as possible. They probably took off running in this direction here. Yep, so it's waiting for it to cook off, waiting longer, and oh, okay, it's cut away. All right, let's see if we can see. So you can see here, right, some of the evasive maneuvers the tanks have taken, right? You see this roadway, how all these vehicles have begun to like maneuver in different ways. This is another way to counter artillery. Like we said, when they're in their fire for effect mode, they're going to throw, think of it like a shotgun blast. All the rounds are going to come out and all the rounds are going to land in generally the same location. So a good strategy is to spread out. This is if you're a tank or if you're an infantry unit. You want to spread out, you want to get down, and you want to change your location quickly. Yep, there's the final round cooking, or the tank cooking off. That may have also been a final artillery round, but it just looks too much like a burning. Okay, so now here's another role that would normally be fulfilled by individual infantry risking their own lives. And this is called the BDA, the Battle Damage Assessment. And a battle damage assessment is when you try to discern how successful your mission was. This is really useful for enemy intelligence reports, or your intelligence reports on the enemy, because you want to have a sense of, hey, we know that there's a tank battalion across from us, for example. And let's say you know a Russian tank battalion contains, I don't know, 25 tanks. Well, if you know you've killed 3 of them, then you know that you've diminished the enemy strength by a little over 10%, probably like 12%. And you combine that with 3 or 4 other successful fire missions, and suddenly you know, hey, we're not actually across from a tank battalion anymore. We're across from like a tank company plus. And then you might say, okay, we've softened the enemy enough that we can start to push. We can start to go on offense because we've tilted the scales in our favor through successful fire missions. This can only be done with a BDA. You can also learn a lot of intelligence. Let's say you look and say, oh wow, these are older model vehicles. They're not Russia's newest tanks. So either their newest tanks are somewhere else, for example, or you may even be able to look and make observations about the exact crew. You could learn about sometimes even read the markings on these vehicles to discern what unit they're with, if units have withdrawn from the battlefield or repositioned. All of this stuff is so valuable that it's considered worth it to risk a squad or platoon of infantry to go and physically inspect these areas. But you don't have to when you have drones with this level of fidelity. So this is the highest. I've got it on 1080p HD footage. So this is the basically as accurate as the drone footage can get. But look at how accurate this drone footage is. And again, we don't see any human beings who appear hurt. It looks like everyone ran away in time. But look at how close you can get in, right? And you can see so much of the not just the destruction, but it tells you something about what this unit is, right? Looks like a transport, some sort of BMP or BTR. And it tells us that, okay, this is maybe a combined arms type of unit. Right, so we look here, looks like the same vehicle at a different angle. This thing has just been devastated by artillery. Looks like there maybe were tracks and those tracks are gone. I mean, this is probably a function of it honestly cooking off. But just the level of detail. Let's back it up a second. I want to point out just how detailed this drone footage is. I mean, when I was in Afghanistan 10 years ago, we had drones and they could never get this accurate. Look at this. You can see individual like rounds from a belt-fed weapon system. You can almost see into the tank. Armored vehicle. Yeah, this is just incredible. And look, you can see where other rounds impacted. Again, the fire for effect, where they're just hauling rounds into a general area. This is what you get, right? You get a couple of misses, but they're just so powerful, these 155 shells, that you just need to blanket an area and you will get your hits. And again, it's so much easier to expend 155 shells than it is to risk people, soldiers, to achieve these sort of objectives. There's yet another tank. This one looks like an actual like tank, not a personnel carrier. You can see the turret. It looks like all the rounds have cooked off, blowing the turret right off. The treads have just been completely obliterated. So yeah, I mean, look at what you can learn from this. If you can identify this model of tank, if you can identify the unit, you're going to get even sometimes the positioning of the tanks and the vehicles will tell you what operation they were trying to do when the fire mission began. This guy was probably, I suspect, trying to take some evasive action, unless the tank's crew just dipped out. Yep, you can see how careful they are with each individual vehicle. They're getting the best BDA possible. They're getting the view from the side, they're getting a view from the top, they probably get a view from the opposite side. This is just part of it. It's when people talk about sort of the boring parts of combat, this is sometimes what they're talking about. The fact that if you want to do it right, you do a careful BDA. This probably took over an hour to assess each one of these vehicles for exactly how to get as much intelligence as they possibly could from them. There's another one. Oh, no, this is the same one from another angle, I believe. Yeah, see 3 different angles. Yep, but you can see here the armored vehicle. Wow, that's a hit right down the top. A pretty devastating hit there, and just blowing out the inside of the vehicle. So this may have also been some sort of security vehicle. They may have been trying to secure an area, for example, for a bridge crossing. Yeah, this is what this could be. It could be securing an area for an eventual crossing of a river. Could also probably maybe the Donetsk is towards the camera. It could also be them trying to control a key intersection or crossroads. But either way, this is just a testament to how effective this battle damage assessment, this BDA, is. And you could see it's just systematically learning everything they can about how successful a fire mission is. This is just a testament again to Ukrainian combat forces' skill and ability to evolve over time. Right? These are combining drones and artillery is something that is incredibly advanced. This is a tactic. Technology and tactics combined, and it's less than probably 5 years old. Honestly, it may be maybe 10 years old at most. So truly incredible stuff to see their level of effectiveness, and that was extremely accurate, extremely devastating hits, and really a testament to their effectiveness. Anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed that. If you want me to break down some videos that are way too spicy for YouTube, you want to become a member of the Patreon, thanks to our Lieutenant tier patrons. Also, be sure to hit subscribe. We're so close to 100K. We're so close. Please help me out. I want that silver plaque. I'll see you in the next one.